Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live, and the Denver Nuggets win. They don't win by 2. They don't win by 4. They don't win by 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 18. If you've been listening to these lives over the last few days, I told you so. I told you so. We are going to be witnessing a lot of retractions, and I got a lot to say specifically to Gilbert Arenas. Heard a lot of crap from Gilbert Arenas today over the last few days. I think a lot has been made of Nikola Jokic. Did he deserve MVP? Yeah, God damn it. He deserved MVP. He deserved MVP last year. He should be a 4-time MVP right now. Then the conversation would really be, spinning. The voters got it right. To everyone saying, no, Shea should have won it. Lucas should have won it. No, they shouldn't have. He's the best player in the NBA. That's what the MVP is, right? Typically, it's the guy who added the most to his team's success. We're witnessing it right now. So we're going to witness a lot of retractions. I think a lot of people, had sort of written the obituary on the Denver Nuggets. And we're going to talk about the Indiana Pacers and their miracle three-pointer by Andrew Nembhard, which really saved their series and frankly saved their season. And of course, with OG Anunoby expected to potentially be out for, I think he could be out for the round, frankly, given the way that he left. I think it's very possible that Indiana makes it a competitive series. I think this could go 6 or 7, but they needed this one, and they got it. They got a much better effort from Pascal Siakam tonight, a lot more assertive. So we'll talk about that game. We will talk about Denver. But first, let's take a listen to the ignoramus, the idiot, one of the dumbest basketball players ever, one of the most ignorant, ridiculous human beings to ever grace a basketball court. Let's listen to Gilbert Arenas and what he had to say about Nikola.
Or last year when his team was 1, you didn't give it to him. You gave it to someone whose team was 3rd, 4th, or 5th.
You mean total?
Yeah. This year, his team was 2nd, right? What did he do individually, right? The reason they struggled this year is because someone said, well, they would have had a better record if Murray didn't miss 30 games. I didn't know Murray was that important to an MVP candidate, right? So
I wonder if he knows now, for a person who spent their entire career not utilizing their teammates properly, I can imagine why someone like Nikola Jokic would drive someone like this crazy. I can understand why Shaquille O'Neal is hating the hell on Nikola Jokic. I can understand why North American players in general, especially those who are big proponents of AAU culture and frankly selfish basketball, find Nikola Jokic to be infuriating because he is dominating the game in a way that they wish they could have, but they don't even understand it.
You need Murray to help you get first. Why are we rewarding you for something you need him for? The guy that we're giving a trophy to, the most important player at the end of the game that showed us game after game. When they need to win, they give it to Murray, not Jokic.
That's not even true. But let's not exaggerate here. Bill Russell is one of the greatest players of all time. It doesn't mean that he had to jack up shots like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is not the only way to be great. Magic Johnson passed. Okay, Larry Bird passed. You didn't pass because you never met a shot that you didn't like. You're not a real point guard. Fine. Let's not even bring up the gun incident, bringing a gun into the locker room because, look at the life of Javaris Crittenton. Look at that entire Wizards team. When the fuck did Gilbert Arenas ever do anything in his life worth mentioning? Yeah, he was a 2nd-round pick who earned a max contract. And what did he do when he earned all that money? Folded. Became one of the worst decisions. Went around. That's never going to happen with Nikola Jokic. Ever. Cares way too much about basketball. It drives me crazy to hear this guy have his own podcast in such a big platform, and people quote it because, frankly, unfortunately, it mirrors the takes of a lot of people. A lot of people in the United States have an issue with foreigners, and this is a guy who is on record saying, get rid of all the Europeans. Get rid of the Europeans. What a demonstrably stupid, bigoted, xenophobic, and frankly racist take, because he doesn't have an issue with black Europeans. I'll tell you that much right now. His takes are not about Giannis. Frankly, his takes are basically about Jokic. And whether people want to admit it or not, they have an issue with Nikola Jokic because of what he looks like. And that is racist. That is racist. Because he's an immigrant, because he is not about what you're about. He doesn't play the game the way you want to play it. He doesn't value the things you value. It's funny, the projection that goes on from North Americans to Europeans. I'll tell you, the game is taught differently over there. It's thought about differently. Life is thought about differently. It doesn't make sense for me to go to China and then ascribe North American values to Chinese culture. That's stupid. Smart people don't do this. Smart people go to China and listen. They open their ears and they ask about customs and culture, and they try to evolve their understanding based on the country in which they are in. Victor Wembanyama was asked by Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer. This is not shade on Kevin O'Connor. I just want to point something out. Victor Wembanyama was asked by Kevin O'Connor whether or not, he was offended that that Joel Embiid had opted to not play with Team France and had spurned Team France for Team USA. And Wemby said it didn't even think about it. Doesn't even bother him. And Kevin O'Connor said, that's cap. Oh my God, he's lying. That's just a bold-faced lie. And it's like, no, actually, that's not a bold-faced lie. That's exactly why Victor Wembanyama is so successful. That's why he's so successful. Voters last year penalized Nikola Jokic for not valuing the MVP award. He has repeatedly said over and over that the championship meant more than his MVPs. Isn't that what we want? Isn't that the value of basketball that we want to espouse? Isn't that what we want our kids to learn? Why are we so resistant to this being the norm? Why? Because it runs counterintuitive to Carmelo Anthony and Rudy Gay. And it seems like all the knuckleheads post-retirement find a way to find each other. No disrespect to Kenyon Martin.
Yes, Jokic can.
But look at this panel. You got Brandon Jennings. You got Gilbert Arenas, Rashad McCants, Kenyon Martin.
Hit game.
A lot of incredibly talented players who did not really live up to their potential. Did Kenyon Martin really live up to the potential of a first overall pick? Let's be real about that. Okay.
Winners, but that's not who gets those, right? So we're rewarding him for mistakes, bad decisions before, but as a young guy who's sacrificed, who's played the game right, what do I look forward to? What can I do next year if I'm Shea? Tatum, what do I do next year?
Here's the thing. Both he and Shaq are making a case for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is an incredible player and frankly is Canadian. So, naturally I am supporting him. And, I know a lot of people who know Shai, who knew him back in high school and personally. So there's some connection there where I feel happy for my people as well. And so, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, Shai is an awesome player and I'm really happy they're supporting him, but they're really not supporting him. And that's the truth. They probably watched 5 OKC Thunder games, and trust me, when you listen to their takes on basketball, you can tell they just wanted it to be somebody else. That's the truth. These people are acting like they just wanted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to win. And honestly, if you ask them like 5 things about Shai's season, they couldn't tell you. And that's just the truth. They see nearly 30 points per game. They see number 1 seed and they say it should be Shai. Why not Shai? Those numbers look right. 30 points per game, that looks right. The voters who they are criticizing actually look at the real numbers and they watch the games. Hopefully, most of them do. I know that there are some voters out there that are absolute idiots, but the average person who voted has a much better grasp on the players they're voting on than these people. And Gilbert Arenas, prior to this game, over the last 4 days, did something particularly egregious. He said that he got a text from a player in the Denver Nuggets locker room who had evidence that Nikola Jokic was basically quitting on his team, that he just wanted to go home. And he said, this Denver Nugget apparently, allegedly, texted him, and he sort of low key flashed the text on his phone. And he said that Jokic basically wants to go home. And I listened to a lot of stuff today. I was doing a lot of stuff around the house, so I just decided to listen to a lot of Denver Nuggets podcasts, and there was really, really a feeling, even among diehard Denver Nuggets fans, diehard Nikola Jokic supporters, people who have watched this guy go from a second-round pick to a 3-time MVP, that he didn't care about his team, that he really just wanted to go home to his horses, that he was going to let his team bail. Why? How quick we forget. How quickly we forget. This is a man who comes up every night. He's unselfish as hell. He's the ultimate consummate teammate. He's a family man, and he's a freaking fantastic basketball player. I don't buy any of this shit up where he doesn't work hard, he doesn't care about basketball. You can't become a one-time MVP if you can't become an NBA player if you don't work hard. So first of all, this entire, work hard shit, it bothered me when it was about Scotty Barnes. It really bothers me when it's about Nikola Jokic, because dude, this guy works so incredibly hard. You think he just fell off a frigging wagon and learned how to shoot 3-pointers like this? You think all that hand-eye coordination just comes, naturally? No, he's a little pudgy, and so, people think they can brandish him with the Zion tag. No, he's not Zion Williamson, man. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And, it bothers me because he's everything that is right with basketball. In fact, one of my favorite player in the NBA is Scotty Barnes. And a large part of what I identified early on with Scotty was that he was very Jokic-like in his approach to basketball. The Denver Nuggets fed off of Nikola Jokic tonight. Jamal Murray was incredible. I think he showed up big. His drives were clean. His releases were clean. He got to his spots clean. Let's talk about this game. But I got a lot to say. If Gilbert Arenas and I ever end up on the same podcast, come some way, somehow, I am ripping this guy a new one, because the ignorant shit that he has done throughout his career and the ignorant shit that he has said since he started this podcast, it is so flagrant. It is so ridiculous. I wish someone would just check him on it. I realize that lunatic takes sell. I understand the crazier shit you say, the more people get riled up, you win social media followers, etc., etc. And frankly, no matter how ridiculous, uneducated, and stupid the things you have to say, there's always going to be some pocket of the internet that agrees with you. Q, Scotty is autistic. That whole movement of people on TikTok and Reddit and Twitter has millions of supporters, to the point where I can't post a picture of Scotty Barnes today without someone saying he's never going to beat the allegations of this and that. So look, man, there is a number of ridiculous people in this world, and regardless of how stupid you have to say, what you have to say about basketball, if you used to play basketball, there's always going to be some segment of the fan base or some segment of people that are going to agree with you, especially when what you are doing is espousing hate. I really don't appreciate Gilbert Arenas, man. I used to really like him. That's the crazy part. When I was growing up, all that hibachi stuff, I used to really, really feed off of his work ethic, because Gilbert Arenas started playing basketball. I became aware of Gilbert right around when I was playing basketball. I didn't try to model my game after him or anything, but yeah, the shooting and the work ethic and all that stuff, I really like that stuff. But then the more I found out about him, the deadbeat dad stuff, the paternity stuff, the off-court stuff, some of the stuff that he did to people that I knew, some of the stuff that he did to his teammates, some of this ridiculous shit about get Europeans out of the NBA, bringing a gun into the locker room, all this stuff, lower than dirt. Dirt. Fuck that guy, man. Let's talk about the real stuff. The Denver Nuggets smacked the Minnesota Timberwolves. They didn't know what to do. This score is misleading. It was worse. It was significantly worse than this. Frankly, if the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves had played till the buzzer, I don't doubt that the Minnesota Timberwolves would have lost by 45. Let's take a look at the stats. This was not a close game. This was never a close game. Okay. The only moment of this game when it was close was the opening tip. That is it. I'll give you a little foray into sports betting right after this, after we talk about the game, because I actually did a little sports betting today. I'm not proud of it, but I just felt so angry about this Jokic stuff and the Denver slander because I really like this team. Denver is my second favorite team in the NBA, and I really like them. And it really pissed me off to hear all this shit about them. So I was just like, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and bet them to win pretty big. Okay. Aaron Gordon, bringing the ball up was a great idea. 13 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds. Nothing spectacular, but man, his defense was good. He was connected. Michael Porter Jr. on 10 shots, he had 21 points. I think he was solid. Jokic didn't really look to score in the first half. He was incredible. However, as a screen assister, as a defender, I think he was much better. Man, communication, tipping the ball away. He had 3 steals and 3 blocks tonight. Let that sink into your head. Nikola Jokic doesn't play defense. I mean, he was incredible. He was a plus 30 tonight. And the only guy who was higher than him was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was a plus 31 and had 12 points. Got a really balanced attack from Denver. Not really a hell of a lot from their bench. They put Justin Holiday in. He hits his first 3, but not a lot there. Reggie Jackson with 6 points. Denver did not get a lot from their bench. They got 18 minutes from Christian Brown. He had 5, but ultimately they staggered some of those lineups. They almost always kept starters on the court. Mike Malone does not trust that bench, and I don't blame him. Okay, there isn't a lot on that bench, and that's something they're going to have to address this offseason is they really need to develop one of these guys. They didn't play Julian Strawther a lot apart from like earlier in the season. I think maybe this is something that they will regret going forward, because had they played some of these guys a bit more, chances are maybe, just maybe, they could have been a little bit more prepared, and maybe, they're a little less fatigued right now, whatever. But yeah, for the Minnesota Timberwolves side, look, this is no shade. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are a fantastic team. I have maintained that they are a really, really good defense and everything. But I have a friend who messaged me a couple of days ago, and he said that like this is a sweep, like it's going to be over. He's never seen anyone guard the way Minnesota's guarding. This guy's great. This guy's great. Anthony Edwards is better than Nikola Jokic, and he's a really smart guy. So, to him, I say, chill. 2 games is 2 games. Is 2 games is 2 games. Is not wiping out 5 years of evidence. And I got to tell you, I went back prior to, getting into betting on this. I went back and I watched the first 2 games, and I'll tell you what I saw. And I hope, and I'm assuming it's exactly what the Denver Nuggets saw when they looked at the tape. I saw a team that did not play up to its capabilities. I saw a team that wasn't connected offensively, that did not communicate defensively, that was not holding screens, was not fighting for position. They were getting bumped off their spots. Of course, I think the referees helped a lot in that game too, and the Denver Nuggets had a right to be very upset. I went back and I counted nearly 90 fucking fouls, clear as day fouls, which were in clear eyesight that should have been called fouls. And had they been asked for a review, they would have 100% been called fouls. 90, I think it was 92 fouls in a 48-minute game. That's like a foul. That's like a foul of possession. It was ridiculous. Okay. So, Shirt and Forbes, great game tonight from Denver. I still have the Wolves 4-1. I don't think so, man. So, I saw a team that ultimately self-imploded. They got frustrated. They didn't know how to deal with the physicality. They didn't have a counter. Jamal Murray was missing shots. He was forcing shots. Many, many times, Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, it didn't matter who it was. They forced shots. There were clear openings. Even if that opening was Aaron Gordon from 3, fine. It is better than launching a falling away fadeaway floater and begging for calls over 3 defenders. They made themselves so predictable. The Denver Nuggets collapse. Like, look, Denver is incredible. They're an incredible basketball team. They're one of the best basketball teams, I think, over the last 4 years I've ever seen in my life. I'm not putting them up there with the Chicago Bulls and the Golden State Warriors and the Miami Heat or whatever, but they are in that class of team where when they are going right, when they are motivated, when they are plugged in, when they are going at full circle, there is not a lot you can do as a defense to stop them, which is why it made it all the more shocking that Minnesota was stopping them and stopping them in such a way that was so frustrating for them. Here's the thing. Minnesota was not stopping them. Minnesota was doing things, yes, that was stopping them. Minnesota was contributing to the frustration, but I do believe they stopped themselves. And when they looked at that tape, they probably saw it. They had clear cutters. Their spacing was atrocious. Their body language was atrocious. Their communication on defense, their effort, box outs, rebounds. I mean, they gave up everything. And the turnovers, the ridiculous amounts of turnovers. Well, you're going to have turnovers when you don't have proper spacing. You constantly had, Anthony Edwards gapping 2 offensive players and just getting into those passing lanes. Look at the number of turnovers. In the Minnesota Timberwolves, for all of their success and all of their defense, they are a team that struggles to score in the half court. And you fueled their offense by giving them constant break opportunities with your sloppy ass offense. Look, it is very possible to make a team look elite defensively. Look at what the Raptors did to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first week of the season when they played them. A lot of turnovers, right? A lot of missed shots from Anthony Edwards. Were the Raptors the most elite defensive team? No. The Minnesota Timberwolves played an awful game offensively. The Raptors contributed. OG Anunoby was great. Scotty Barnes was very dialed in and motivated. Pascal Siakam and Jakob Poeltl had a part in it. Dennis Schroeder was high on his pressure points. There's stuff that you did to aid into their self-destruction, but at the end of it, had they not self-destructed, they would have won that game. It's the same thing with the Nuggets right now. If the Nuggets decide that they're going to win the next 4 games, man, they're going to win the next 4 games. Let's be real, okay? There is a significant gap in talent, efficacy, intelligence, force, unstoppability between Jokic and Murray versus Cat and Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns, sorry. So let's not get Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns. There's an Anthony in both those names, sorry. Let's not get to a point where we start anointing Anthony Edwards as Michael Jordan. He's doing Michael Jordan-esque stuff. Is he? Is he really? Yes. Actually, he is. Through the first 6 games of the playoffs, his numbers were almost on par with 2019 Kawhi. However, this is a massive outlier. Massive. It is a person who is playing well above their head. And tonight, I think he played a little below his head. I expect the Nuggets to come out and hit hard next game, but I expect the Wolves to be better prepared. That being said, do not expect the Nuggets to fold. They are taking this one game at a time. This is a team that is veteran. It is an experienced team. Do not count out champions and do not slander Jamal Murray. I mean, I know a friend of mine who covers the Nuggets who is just saying Jamal Murray shouldn't play. Dude, there's a thing with championships and relationships. Mike Malone came up with these guys. He's going to stick up for these guys come hell or high water. He's not benching Jamal Murray. There's a part of me that really entertained it. I was like, man, their bench is struggling so hard. He's struggling so hard. Maybe he could help the bench, but that would have to be his decision, not yours. You don't get to bench him. He's not Josh Giddey. Okay. This guy's a champion. These guys earned it. Okay. They earned a championship last year. You can say whatever you want. Soft schedule days. They went through the Lakers. They went through this exact Timberwolves team. Yeah, granted, without Jaden McDaniels. Whose fault is that? I think that Denver took that punch to the face. They looked at themselves in the mirror and said, Okay, bet. Michael Porter Jr. is a significantly more talented player than anyone on the Minnesota side other than their two top guys. Easily. Okay. Down here, anything about Nikola Alexander Walker and Jaden McDaniels and all those guys. Nope. Mike Conley. Nope. None of these guys. Aaron Gordon is a really, really good basketball player. And he's an incredible defender. And I hope he showed it tonight. I think this is going to be a competitive series. I could see it going 6. Yes, I can still see the Nuggets losing this series. Yes, I am not willing to say the Nuggets are going to win this series because they won one road game. But please understand that you don't just get to wipe out what someone has done for 4 years and anoint the new guy based on 2 games. You just don't do that. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. And the problem is that, look, there was such a spillover. There was such a fallout between these 2 games. There was a 4-day gap. People made so many podcasts and so many proclamations and so many estimations and so many reflections. Are we going to get a retraction tomorrow? No. Bill Simmons. Oh, the Nuggets are going to get swept. Are we going to get a retraction on that? Are we going to get a my bad? Oops, my bad. Oh, I didn't see that coming. I underestimated them. No. Because that was what sold. That was the hypey thing to say, and that's what sold, right? Kudos to Jamal Murray. I don't know what he did, but his burst looked much better tonight. He tried to take charges tonight. You know, it's funny. He got slandered probably more than anybody, more than Jokic, who won the MVP last week and had that Shaq controversy. I think Jamal Murray was slandered more than anybody, through this entire thing. Throwing the heat pack, getting fined $100,000. A lot of people, he ducked out of the interview. A lot of people were saying he didn't take accountability in his presser because the Nuggets held a practice 2 days ago. And, Mike Malone was saying, I don't know if these guys have it. Like, they say they have it, or they say they believe, but I don't know if they believe. We'll see. And Mike Malone is one of those great coaches where his messaging is just so on point. Like, he is so great. He's so great as a communicator. And I think his energy was good. And he said that their practice energy was great the last couple of days. So, today we saw that. We saw a team that was connected, that wasn't falling apart at the seams. I believe, just my opinion, I believe that there's some off-court stuff happening with the Nuggets right now. And maybe that will cut their season short. But make no mistake, Nikola Jokic is one of the 10, 12 greatest players of all time. Easily. If we are going to measure greatness by peaks, his peak is on par with the greatest who've ever done it. The only knock on him right now is people allege he does not play defense, which is not true. And people allege he hasn't done it long enough, which has never been the point. He's done it longer than people like Bill Walton. And people are very, very quick to put Bill Walton up there. So, look, I've watched basketball my whole life. My whole life. I've watched it since I was 5 years old. He's the second greatest player I've seen in my lifetime play, like live, after Michael Jordan. So, and LeBron James. So third. And again, with LeBron, it's close. It's close. He's very, 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 very up there. So I understand people like to clown it. It's the analytics. It's this, it's that. You don't do this, you don't do that. I don't understand how he's dominating. Fuck all that, man. Basketball is about what he does, which is making other people better. It's about scoring. It's about team scoring. I can tell you right now, if the Nuggets don't have him tonight, this 27-point win is like a 15 to 35-point loss. That's the gap. That's the difference. I promise you, he makes that big a difference. Defensively, offensively, everything. How much this guy communicates. Every whistle, both challenges, his protests, both challenges were correct. He makes a pass in transition, which unlocks another pass in transition. Nobody sees it. It's the hockey assist. How many times did a decision that he made in the center of the court result in 3 points or 2 points or a foul or a turnover? So many incredible. He was so dialed in. We looked at his box plus minus a couple of days ago on one of our lives, and I think like he was floating close to 6.5 over the last 3 games. The last game against the Lakers, and then the last 2 games against Minnesota, it was like 4, 6, 5. And typically, Jokic in the playoffs is like a 15 box plus minus guy, 14, 13, 18. Like he's high. I guarantee you tonight was like a 12, 15, 18, maybe 22 type of game from him. This is not even the best he can do. He didn't break a sweat tonight. I don't think people understand. Like people are saying like Naz Reid can stop Nikola Jokic. What is wrong with people? Because he blocked 2 shots? This is the take we have. Naz Reid is a great defender. Karl Anthony Towns is the greatest defender ever, apparently, because they stopped Nikola Jokic on 2 plays. We'll talk about the Indiana Pacers and then the New York Knicks. Let's just take a look quickly at the team stats tonight. In terms of just overall, like the offense just died for Minnesota tonight. Like it just was not pretty. They didn't look like they trusted it. They shot 10% worse from the field. They shot 18% worse from 3. The Nuggets shot the Nuggets shot 54% from the field and 48% from 3. And I assure you those numbers were even higher when their starters were on the court. They got to the line less than the Minnesota Timberwolves. They shot nearly perfect from the line, 17 for 20. They out rebounded the shit out of they won the offensive rebounds battle. They won the stocks battle by a mile, 9 steals versus 5. They won the turnover battle. They did not win the fast break battle. They won the points in the paint battle, and their largest lead was 34. 34, and I promise you it was building. To give you a synopsis of just how not close this game was, I just want to show you the win probability throughout this game because it was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. And just by the way, this is called getting steadily whooped. No point did they come even close. Every time, the Minnesota Timberwolves made a 4-0, 6-2 type of run, there was an immediate response. They nipped it in the butt. You have put the best team in the world on red alert, like red alert, and you are not talented enough to beat them. So if they tie it up, if they go 2-2, this series is over for Denver. I'll say that very confidently because they're not going to sleep on this team again. They had, the extended pause, by the way, between these 2 games, because I can tell you right now, if they had to play this game on Wednesday, they probably lose. They needed this rest so badly. Number 1, Jamal Murray needed the rest for injuries. Number 2, they needed that day off. The day after that loss, Mike Malone said, I gave everybody the day off. Boom. We got back to the lab the next day. We studied film. We showed 9 plays to encapsulate. They are not sitting there with the entire team breaking down every single play. No, it was 9 plays, and they encapsulated everything that had gone wrong in the first 2 games, and frankly, everything that had gone wrong in the Lakers series as well. And it was just the kick in the pants that this team needed. And you know what? Focus changes. And I'm telling you, if this game happens on Wednesday, the Nuggets get whooped because, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves just had too much time off, man. They were riding a wave of momentum, and kudos to Anthony Edwards for saying like, I want to keep my foot on their neck. And he's a killer, man. He's a great player, but he's still 22, and he's not Nikola Jokic. Let me show you the win probability here. That's the win probability. The Minnesota Timberwolves were favored to start the game. They came into the game as 5-point underdogs. I promise I'll tell you about the betting because I've been so vehemently against sports betting, and I do want to say I'm not supporting sports betting. I'm never going to be sponsored by sports betting, but I just want to, because I do share everything that I do on this channel. I do want to share what I did regards to sports betting in terms of why I did what I did here. Anyways, 65%, 66%, 71%, and then first quarter, 54 seconds. What was it? 1 minute and Okay, 54 seconds. Denver goes up 26-18, and Denver's win probability goes to 56%. They never looked back, not for a second. The lowest it got really after that was 80%. They won this game wire to wire. This is as commanding. This wasn't even like the previous game where it was like a little hiccup here, a little hiccup here from Minnesota. Minnesota took the foot off the gas in the second half last game. Nope, no foot off the gas ever. This game was just over. This game was over. This game was over in the third. This game was called in the third quarter. Honestly, this game was over in the first half. If you want to be real about it, they said it at halftime. They're not coming back from this. And I mean, crazy things happen, shooting luck happens, whatever. But you cannot stop Nikola Jokic without sending a double team. And you cannot stop the three-point shooting when you send a double team. So you have no choice but to guard him straight up, which is what the Denver Nuggets, are expecting you to do. I was actually very curious to see if the Timberwolves would flip the script. And frankly, if I was coaching that team, I would have. I would have completely flipped what I was doing and thrown the Nuggets off. Scroppy Hooper saying, how much of Denver's W is attributed to the fact the refs decided to call fouls again? Well, as I showed, the Nuggets still went to the line a lot less. And they had to actually 2 of those, I believe 4 of those free throws that they got. Dude, the league is pushing the shit out of Anthony Edwards as their face of their franchise. They understand what's good for business. Denver Nuggets are not good for business. Okay. So if there is any agenda on the referee side, it is always going to be for Anthony Edwards. He's a darling. He's a media darling. Everybody loves him. There's brands. It's a good thing for the NBA to have Anthony Edwards in the finals. I'm telling you, Anthony Edwards going up against the Boston Celtics in the finals is what the NBA wants. Bro, it's me, Vince. Which Vince? Did you make a YouTube channel? That's funny. You should call in. Please don't be like that Paul Allen guy though. Okay. Let's talk about the first game as well, because I think that's worth talking about. Precious Achiuwa gets the start. He does not play very much. He gets 22 minutes. Isaiah Hartenstein, not a hell of a lot, from him tonight. Jalen Brunson, not the most efficient night from him. I was surprised that Andrew Nembhard had continued to get the matchup on him, because I thought Aaron Nesmith was just such a more. It's not like Jalen Brunson can't. Like, it's not that he can't score against length. It's just that it's harder for him to score on a guy who's significantly bigger than him. And Aaron Nesmith presents a serious size differential for him, right? So I'll call in a bit, Scroopy Hoopers. I don't think I'm doing this for too much longer, bro. So if you don't call, it's fine. We're at 39 minutes, so I'm probably going to be ending it in less than 25 minutes. So yeah. Overall, I think the Knicks got a valiant effort from Alec Burks off the bench. I think he was a revelation for them until he wasn't. And they trusted Deuce McBride, and that was it. Those are the 2 guys that got off the bench. They don't have anything else. They literally don't. They're not playing Shake Milton in this series. OG Anunoby is not available. Mitchell Robinson is hurt. Julius Randle is hurt. Even Josh Hart came out of the game, apparently. 18 rebounds, 10 points, 4 assists. I felt like a lot of turnovers from him and Brunson. Dante DiVincenzo was absolutely the player of the game for me. Huge 3-point shooting, incredible, really some good defensive moments as well. I think he blocked Pascal Siakam, which is pretty awesome. For the Pacers, they got a 26-point, very efficient night from Pascal Siakam. Incredible defense from Aaron Nesmith. And a very, very motivated and high volume shooting game from Tyrese Halliburton, and a really quiet night from Andrew Nemhard, including a really, really shitty turnover in which, like the ball just ekes off his hands, and then the biggest shot of his life. He went 1 for 3 tonight. He's not a great 3-point shooter. And for him to do that with the game on the line, he's not the greatest 3-point shooter. He's an okay 3-point shooter. He's not the greatest 3-point shooter. But for him to have the stage presence, dude, this guy is made of something different. Like, it is really, really interesting. For him to to have a night like that, you 1 for 7, not the greatest 3-point shooter, right? To pull up, step back, off the dribble, like 30 feet. Yo. And Tyrese Halliburton passed the ball, which was really weird to me. But again, we celebrate Jokic for the exact same thing as we celebrate Tyrese Halliburton. They're willing to trust their teammates. Nick laughs saying Nick 3 points isn't 3 points. Hell yes, because that swung the game. Now, he hits that shot, this game is over, right? Ben Shepherd struggled tonight. Obi Toppin, struggled tonight. We've been seeing a lot of 17, 19, 20-point games from Obi Toppin. He was not that tonight. The entire Pacers bench was a negative tonight in terms of plus minus. Every one of them, right? And the starters were all positive. So that's the story of the game, right? You're going to have to play these guys. I thought it was interesting that Pascal Siakam played 31 minutes. He was in foul trouble for most of the first half and most of the second half, frankly. And, he picked up some really chippy ones. I damn near lost my mind at how many fouls should have been called on the Pacers that were not called in this game. It is ridiculous to me how much they got away with. Siakam grabbed jerseys all night long. All night long. He pushed Isaiah Hartenstein in the back. He held Isaiah Hartenstein on that clear drive. He could have fouled out probably in the first half easily. He got away with so much. The Pacers defenders got away with so much. Aaron Nesmith got away with so much. They were holding and the refs were not calling it. Like, there's this old, thing about the NBA wants to extend series. It's good for business. You know what I mean? Especially when they feel like a particular series is going a little bit long to hold interest. So there's always going to be a little bit of an edge. They can't just come out and say, okay, we're fixing the game for this team or that team or whatever. But there's going to be a certain focus, especially when Rick Carlisle loses his mind, gets a $35,000, I think, fine or whatever. You're going to have a bit of an overcorrection in terms of like one team being favored over another. I expected the Indiana Pacers to win this game. I was shocked out of my mind when it looked like they were going to lose this game. To the point where I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. This New York Knicks team has won me over in the biggest way. Like, I'm so impressed with them. But to put it into perspective, just how even this game was, look at the win probability and how many times it edged towards New York. New York pretty much had this in the bag for most of the second half. And then they just started to lose it. And honestly, they started to lose it when Jalen Brunson came back into the game. And I just don't think, I think they had like a missed layup and it was right there, right? Like, it's interesting. Coaches can sort of feel it. Jalen Brunson entered the game 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Okay. He got that rest and it was 98-92. Okay. Let me just show you exactly what happened. Because I mean, this is not shade on Jalen. I think he's been incredible, but he did not have the type of impact I think he would have wanted to have on the fourth quarter. He was a little too ball dominant. And I think it kind of got his team out of rhythm, and they were really like in rhythm at that time. So where the hell is it? Jalen Brunson enters the game here. Boom. So first play, bad pass. Second play, missed a free throw. Makes a free throw. Josh Hart commits a foul. Josh Hart shooting foul. So it spirals. And in that 2 minutes, a minute and a half, the Pacers are right back in it. And you have completely missed like the entire, momentum that you had. And you've let them back into the game. And they're at home, right? So there are games like you can make a case that the first game, the Pacers played the better game and lost. Tonight, they played the worst game and won. These things tend to balance themselves out, but yeah. Yet it seems like Indy was assaulting New York all night and no whistle. I agree. It was ridiculous. It was really ridiculous. And I don't see Rick Carlisle coming out and say, "Oh, we really got away with one." Anyway, so overall, I do expect the series to go a little bit longer than I initially expected it to. I initially expected it to be a wrap in 4 or 5 because I really don't like or rate the Indiana Pacers, and I think the New York Knicks are a significantly better basketball team. However, in light of OG Anunoby's injury, in light of the injury to Mitchell Robinson, in light of the fact that Precious Achiuwa is proving himself to be a little bit unplayable offensively and just a little too error prone as a basketball player to trust in a tight series like this, especially with a transition offense. You just can't have you can't have people committing offensive fouls and having these sort of like brain farts. As much as Precious Achiuwa will offer defensively, he will cost you so much offensively. And this is something the Raptor fans should be very familiar with, right? So I think honestly that this series probably goes to 6 or 7, and it's a toss up. I think you could make a case that you can make a very, very solid case actually that sorry, I'm just trying to download the Nuggets post game stuff and I'm not really seeing it, which is kind of what the hell. Did Nikola Jokic not do a post game interview? That makes no sense. Hang on one sec. Hey Jay, what's up?
Hey Rob.
How you doing?
Oh, close the other one. 1 second. Am I already joining? Oh,
Yeah.
hey.
Here you
Long
are.
time no see.
Yeah, long time. What's going on?
How's Doggy doing?
Doggy's good. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah,
He's great.
recovered well from the surgery.
Yeah, he made a full recovery. Yeah,
that's amazing. I'm really happy to hear that.
Thanks a lot for asking.
I don't know if this is going to cut into your thought process, but I wanted to call in and chat a little bit about the upcoming draft. And I was poring over scouting reports, maybe over 20 hours of scouting reports for some targets that I wanted to run by you, as well as a little bit about free agency stuff. I don't know how much time you have to chat though. So,
okay.
Where you want to put in the playoffs?
I do want to stay on the playoffs and I want to go to the post game because that, but okay. if you're just around, if you're still around in about 10-15 minutes, we can go into the draft towards the end. Basically the way these lives have been going is I focus on the other teams and then towards the end of the live, I think people have gotten into a rhythm. It would be a little bit weird if I start talking about the draft and then I go to Denver Nuggets stuff after, right? So yeah, if you want to hang around, that's fine. If not, we're gonna be doing a live tomorrow. I know you're on Asia time, so it's gonna be a little bit complicated for you sometimes to call in, but we're gonna do a live tomorrow, and obviously we're gonna be doing the Sunday live. For the lottery. So yeah.
Okay. How about I just call back in a bit later then? I'll let you go wrap things up with the playoffs.
Okay, cool.
It was not surprising, but how Denver responded surprised me. Because I knew they would. I had a feeling they were going to win it, but I thought it would be closer. I did not think it was going to be over in the first half. Like it was so dominant that it was a big wake up call. I think for the league that Denver is a legit team.
Who do you have winning the series?
I had Denver in 6, but I don't know. It could go to 7. It could go to 7, but I had Denver in 6. But this was before game 2. Like after game 1, I thought Denver would come back and win it in 6. After game 2, I was not so sure about my prediction. I thought it might be over in 5, might be even over in 4 for meaning Minnesota takes over.
That's so I wanted to talk a little bit about sports betting because I typically, if you've followed my channel, you know that I always have such an anti-sports betting thing, but I decided to do a little bit of betting today because I was so confident the Nuggets would win. And so the last 3 days, I gave myself like a few $100 and I was like, you know what, you lose it, whatever. I'm not trying to make money on this, but I just have a feeling Denver is going to win. And so I started stacking bets as parlay bets, but the tail end of my parlay was always Nuggets money line. So I would be like, I don't know, when the Knicks are down, like, I don't know, like, and it's like 5-1 odds, it'd be like Knicks plus Nuggets, You know, if the Pacers are down, I'd be like Pacers plus Nuggets. I just went crazy, but basically it was just Nuggets plus something else, Nuggets plus something else, whatever. And then this morning I woke up and I had like nearly $1,400 of bets from $200 floating on the Nuggets to win. And I was like, pretty much. There was actually like there was a single bet which was it was Knicks, Mavericks, Nuggets, which was 23-1. It was when the Knicks were like 3.5 to 1, and Dallas was 2.5 to 1, and then Nuggets were 2.6 to 1. So it was like it was like a crazy, exactly, and because of that, it was 24-1 odds on that bet, and it was like a $5 bet. So it was like, oh my god. So then I woke up this morning and I was like, dude, if you cash out of everything right now, you will have made a tremendous amount of money. But if you ride this, like, holy shit, right? I wrote it. I was like so confident. I wrote it the whole way,
and it hit. And it hit all the way.
Everything hit. So I was like so confident.
Disclaimer, because the people watching may be very encouraged to do bets, but this is not a typical. Yeah, this is not a typical result. Don't bet anything that you can't afford to lose. So just be careful.
That's exactly it. So it was basically a $200 thing that I had just been given $200 sort of as it was a bonus on something, and I was thinking of different things to do with it, and I initially thought I wanted to buy something with it, but instead I decided to just throw it, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to bet $200 on the Nuggets to win, and that's how it unfolded. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool that worked out. Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna go to the Nuggets post game stuff, but yeah, thanks a lot for calling in, and if you're around in 20-30 minutes, we can definitely talk draft. Yep. Talk to you later, man.
All right.
My
pleasure.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Okay.
Well, thanks again for stopping by the show. You said the other night after you guys dropped the second game when they said, how will you respond? You said, I don't know, we will see. What did we see tonight out of your team?
I think we played much simpler. We didn't get them opportunity to be aggressive. We run the floor a little bit faster. We gave ourselves a chance to have time in offense. We didn't turn the ball over. We rebound, we defend. We were aggressive, more aggressive than them, and I think that was the thing that changed the game.
You're a guy that seems unbothered at all times, but this is a long wait from Monday till tonight, and there's a lot of chatter about your team, right, after you dropped the first couple. Did any of that serve as fuel for your team tonight, Nikola?
I mean, for me, individually, no. Probably some guys, yes. For me, individually, it was just to win the next game, and that's what we did. And that's going to be the same thing Saturday. What is it? Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday, right. Yeah. In terms of what you all did tonight, and you gave me a pretty good accounting of what you all did better, what would you say is the most important thing that you guys did well tonight that you need to carry forward Sunday and beyond?
Cross the half court in 2-3 seconds.
That's it?
Yes.
Everything starts from that. Last quick thought.
Yes.
Coach kept pointing out and reminding you, you're the reigning champions, act like that. To you, does that resonate? What does that mean, to just remind yourself what you and your team are?
I mean, just what we are capable of and what we can do. We know that, just to know what we can do and what we are capable of. You know, we have been in tough position situations, and we were down big, and we know we can come back and just, play like a champion. You know, just to have that mindset.
Well, you did tonight, and I would bet that MVP the other night was nice, but I would bet that this win tonight is nicer, isn't it?
Yes, a little bit better.
Understood. Well, get across half court in 2 seconds, and you can take the headset off and get to the locker room in 2 seconds. Nikola, thanks for taking the time.
In 2-3 seconds, you forgot.
2 or 3 seconds.
2-3.
We'll see. 2 or 3. All right, my friend.
Michael, a lot of guys contributed for you guys tonight. It seemed like the game slowed down a little bit more on offense. Defensively, you made them make tough shots and tough decisions. What, I guess, sort of impressed you most about the way you guys responded to the way the first two games went?
Just that start. Yeah. I mean, it's been a point of emphasis throughout the playoffs is getting off to better starts, not playing from behind, not playing catch-up. And I thought our starting group came out and set the tone from Jump Street. And so you win the first quarter. Then the message was, all right, now let's win the second quarter. Let's win the third quarter. And so I love the fact that not only did we get off to a great start, but we were able to sustain that. We had a hit-first mentality. We became the aggressor tonight. And it was a good win for us, but we're far from doing anything to celebrate. We're still down 2-1. But I couldn't agree more. I thought a lot of guys stepped up tonight. Michael Porter made shots. Aaron Gordon in that third quarter made a bunch of shots, played great defense. Nikola's game, some of the things that you won't even show up in the stat sheet, his screening tonight, getting guys open. Tonight, that was Denver Nugget basketball. And that's the first time I've seen that in this series for 4 quarters. And the challenge is to do it again at an even higher level come Sunday.
Michael, one guy you didn't mention there was Jamal, and it felt like he got back to himself making some of those tough shots that he makes. Just how good was it to see some of those shots go down for him? And is he the type of guy that to channel those boos into motivation for himself?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but more importantly, to your point, I was asked after last game, where my confidence was regarding Jamal going 3 for 18. And I have all the confidence in the world in Jamal Murray. And he got going early. Again, I thought Nikola freed him up. His teammates freed him up, but he was aggressive. Saw the ball go in early. And, to get all 5 starters going offensively, we become very tough to guard. And I think he does kind of relish those moments where he is the bad guy. And I love being in an atmosphere like that. To me, like that beginning of the game, you're in hostile territory. And, that's kind of where you separate the man from the boys. And our guys, I think tonight showed, what we're capable of and how dangerous we can be. But again, it's just one game. We're still down in this series, and we have a long way to go.
Coach Malone, you said that about him. He relishes being the bad guy, but he kind of sometimes is the vibe of your team. We see that in fourth quarters. But when not only was he making shots, he was kind of chirping the crowd. He was engaging with your bench. Did you know, okay, he's got something going tonight? Like he's feeling it? Yeah,
you could see early on just how aggressive he was. And again, it wasn't just Jamal. I felt, we tried to simplify things offensively tonight and less thinking, more attacking, more aggression. And Jamal definitely set the tone with that. And, he feeds off that. He's a guy that plays with a ton of emotion. And I think actually that's when he plays at his best, when he's playing with that emotion. We've seen that time and time again. Hell of a performance by Jamal, by Nikola. I thought our bench was really, really effective tonight. Justin Holiday, Reggie, short minutes, but came in and did his job. I thought CB's defense was incredible. So, we only played 8 guys for the majority of the game, and those guys did a hell of a job.
Coach, after a loss, if this were a regular season, after a loss in like game 2, the way you guys lost, one of the hallmarks would be like, hey, we have a game in 48 hours, or we have a game tomorrow. Like we can flush this really quickly. How difficult was it for you guys to have 3 days off, to have to sit on this and have to think about this before tonight?
I don't think it was that difficult. It gave us time to own it first and foremost, because you got to own it. This in the playoffs, you just can't flush an ass whooping. You got to own it and see why, and understand the why, and make sure that never happens again. And so it was great because Tuesday could be a complete day off. Everybody get away from each other, and then Wednesday have a very honest film session and dialogue and conversation with my team. Have a really good practice, and then get here on Thursday and, now, okay, we're past it. Let's turn the page and talk about how we're going to win Game 3. And so I thought we used the schedule to our advantage. And now it's a quick turnaround for Sunday. And we're not going to celebrate because, once again, we finally played a game as close to 48 minutes. It might have been the best game of the playoffs for us, to be honest. I don't think we played great in the first round. We had moments, but in the playoffs, man, you got to start stringing quarters together, halves together, games together, and hopefully we can build off it tonight.
There was a moment in the late in the first quarter where Joker and Gobert are just banging fiercely on the block. And he gets a foul call. Is this the first game where you felt truly, that you say it all the time, they felt you? And second part is, what went on with you and the fan late in the game?
Yeah, I do think it was the first game of this series where we made them feel us. You know what I mean? Old John Starks, make them feel you out there. And that's not just on defense. You know what I mean? You think about it, I told our team before tonight's game, they're only averaging 106 points a game against us. I mean, they averaged 118 in the first round against Phoenix. They're only averaging 106. It's our offense, fellas. Like we have to have a physicality on offense as well. We have to attack. We have to screen. We have to hit on both ends. So, yes, I do think we had a hit-first mentality tonight, and that was effective and helped us on both ends of the floor. Regarding the fan, he didn't like my haircut, and I told him that, I liked my haircut. And, we just kind of went from there.
Things escalate quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that's, that happens at times in a hostile environment, and, people get a little liquid courage, I guess, sometimes, and they think they can just say whatever they want to anybody. And I'm not allowing that to happen. No. I think they wind up, but I didn't ask for that. But listen, man, these fans here are great. I mean, that was an amazing atmosphere. I mean, you live for moments like that and opportunities like that to go out there and perform when you got 20,000 people screaming at you. But unfortunately, there's always going to be some people that want to get a little bit more involved in the game and make it personal, and that's unfortunate.
Coach, after game 2, you challenged your guys. And in the days in between, you challenged them repeatedly. Was tonight even more than the win-loss thing? Were you curious about how, from a mental toughness standpoint, your team would respond?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing was winning the game. We knew that you go down 3-0, things are not looking very good for your squad. But there's always, you're always testing and finding out about human nature and what guys are made of. And when your backs are against the wall. And I had an edit made, and I wasn't sure if I was going to show it to the guys, and I showed it to DeAndre Jordan, and he said, oh, hell yeah, we got to show it to the guys. And it was a 2-minute edit of every talking head in this country saying that the series is over, the Nuggets are done, it's a wrap, they're toast, Minnesota's a better team. All the big personalities, and you know who they are. And not that they were wrong. This is not a shot at those people, because after the first 2 games, probably would have said the same thing. But I didn't want to show it because most of the time I don't give a damn what they say. But I knew that this would maybe strike a chord, deep inside you, to say, hey, man, everybody and their brother is saying you're out, you're done. You guys can't play with this team. They're better than you. If that doesn't resonate within you as a competitor, I don't know what will. And so, yes, our guys answered the bell, and they showed me that they still believe. That was my biggest question. Do you believe? Getting on that plane on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, are you going to believe that we can go up there and win 2 games? And we're halfway there. Got a long way to go.
Yeah, it seemed like you guys had a much easier time dealing with their ball pressure and getting into your DHO game than last game. Was it something tactical that you guys did, or was that mostly just playing better?
Definitely a combination. We did play better, and we were more physical. We were more aggressive. We played more downhill. But we also tried to alleviate how much Jamal especially had to bring the ball up. Now, we have 2 very good ball-handling bigs, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon. Let them initiate offense. So now Jamal can maybe start off in the corner, and now he's just coming off of a dribble handoff. He's coming off of a pin-down DHO to so lessen his load, because we know he's going to have to play 40 minutes a night and score 25 plus. So I think we did a little bit more of that, let our bigs initiate the offense. But when Jamal or Reggie or Pope or CB had the ball, those guys were also doing a good job of being aggressive and not playing with the ball and getting downhill. You go back to game 2, our offense really hindered our defense because we were not getting into our offense. We were not hitting anybody, and we were playing in a lot of late clock situations. And tonight that wasn't the case. And I felt our offense really helped our defense tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, that was interesting. So overall, I think the adjustments were made, and that's what the playoffs are about. After the first game, second game, usually you make that adjustment after the second game. If you're quick, you can make it after the first game. So will be interesting to see tomorrow. Obviously, we'll have Thunder Mavs game 3. We'll see if the Thunder adjust, or if in fact they are toast like everyone thinks. I think the biggest adjustment for the Thunder tomorrow needs to be Josh Giddey needs to get out of the starting lineup, and probably somebody else, probably anyone else, Casey Wallace, literally anybody. I think could be inserted into that starting lineup in his place. Maybe even Gordon Hayward sighting. They have more than enough. Ghost has IQ. Luca is questionable for tomorrow. Yeah, he was questionable the last game and probably the first game as well. I don't think he's missing a playoff game. I think what he said was, I think I would have to not be able to walk to miss a playoff game. And yeah, to me, that's he's playing. But yeah, missing a home game in the playoffs, that guy cares entirely too much. So if he does miss it, that's going to be something. I am, however, very interested to see what happens with the Cleveland Celtics thing. Obviously, the series shifting now back to Cleveland, and Cleveland has a commanding 1-1 tie in a series, frankly, that a lot of people expected them to get swept in, or at least lose like 4-1. They still very well could lose 4-1. I think the Celtics will have old demons tested tomorrow, whereby they're going to be tested in that sense that, are they going to do what they did with Miami? Were they going to play with their food, or are they going to come out and take care of business? They're going to stand on business, because I'll tell you right now, there's no comparison between these two teams. Even with Kristaps Porzingis out, given the fact that Jared Allen is out, there should be no comparison between these two teams on the road, at home, doesn't matter. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Derek White. This is an overwhelming talent advantage gap. But yeah, it's going to come down to spacing, execution. I think it so often does come down to that, right? And I think the Nuggets made their adjustment today. Obviously, as Mike Malone alluded to, having Jokic and Aaron Gordon initiate, so that Jamal Murray did not have to bring the ball up the court, face all that ball pressure from Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, etc. There's also a human element of it, I think, with the Nuggets series, where you have 4 days and you got everybody gassing you up, and trust me, these players listen to it, they watch it, and there's a human nature when you get up to kind of become a little complacent. And yeah, I felt like, maybe Anthony Edwards could keep their focus, and knowing that they're going up against the world champs. But I think because the world champs themselves looked so defeated and so deflated, they could not have expected a punch like this to the face. And kudos to the Denver Nuggets, of course, for winning this game, but also for not making any bold and stupid proclamations. You didn't have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray coming out and saying, "I guarantee you we win this game with this series in 6." They didn't give the Wolves anything. In fact, I think largely because Nikola Jokic is so passive and so indifferent about these things, he doesn't show emotion the way people are used to emotion being shown. I think it sometimes becomes misconstrued as he doesn't care, or he doesn't have confidence, or whatever. This guy has supreme confidence, I assure you. And the amount that he cares is on display every night. Every night. Every night he puts his, body on the line. Every time, he's communicating a screen, every time he's taking hard hits in the post and grinding, every time he's pushing the outlet, every time he talks to a teammate, every single time he communicates defensively, every time he pokes away a loose ball, every time he does these things, he is showing me that he cares a lot about the game of basketball. So it's going to be a tough series for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Hopefully they don't unravel. I don't think enough is going to be made of how much they self-imploded tonight. Kyle Anderson, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Karl-Anthony Towns, just constantly jawing at the referees. Jaden McDaniels had his moments too. So, I think that's a team that's going to have to regroup. Unfortunately for them, they don't have a lot of time to regroup because they have to play again on Sunday. And they can come out with a lot of adrenaline, but there's not going to be a lot of time to turn around between rest, recovery, etc. The Nuggets got a full practice in because they had this 4-day gap. I don't think the Minnesota Timberwolves is going to have a practice. And Mike Malone's, crescendo moment in that press conference was they're only averaging like 108 points a game against us, or 106 points a game. That's true. This is a team that struggles to score. If you haven't realized, this is a team that doesn't exactly have a ton of pressure, like rim pressure. It's Anthony Edwards, who had his moments tonight, but they don't have like a second option behind that. Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Jaden McDaniels, Karl-Anthony Towns, these are not very offensively advanced people. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is offensively advanced in a sense where if you want to run the offense through him, like it's, 1999, you want to put it down the post, or, you want to let him pop off and get a whole bunch of threes off. But man, like that's not like shade on him. I'm just saying it's not a great offensive team. They're a great defensive team, and they fuel their offense through their defense. But if your offense is just so good that their defense can't get rolling, you're not going to have a chance in this series. So they just have to win 2 more games in this series. And there are 5 games left for them to do it. Is that true? No. Therefore, wait, hold on. Wow. Math not mathing. They have to win 2 more games in this series, and there are 4 games left in the series, and they have to win 2 of them. Yeah. What? Yo, this is going to become a viral moment as my sleepy brain cannot figure this out. Okay. Game 4, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7. There are 4 games left. They have to win 2 of them. Yes. But why is that not? That seems so unintuitive. They have to win 2 out of 4. Whereas the Nuggets have to win 3 out of 4. That's exactly it. Dumbass. Okay. Yeah. The Nuggets, wow. The Nuggets are fully capable of winning 3 out of 4, though. Let's just put it that way. And after, if they split it, like if they win, and they're more than capable of winning on the road. They're an NBA champion. They have the best player in the league. So if they win on Sunday, you're going back to Denver having lost home court advantage. Like it's a must win at this point for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So yes, there we go. Wow. Okay, let's bring JB back on. JB, what's up, man? Hello? I think your mic might be off. Okay. No JB. All right, JB is gone. All right. All right. I guess no callers tonight. That's great. That's perfectly fine. I guess we did have a caller. But yes, overall, I expect this series to be a lot more fun. I hope for retractions. I think a lot of people are lucky because they do these daily shows on Sportsnet and stuff, and then they don't do these shows on Saturday and Sunday. But I'll be very curious to see what certain podcasters have to say about this, especially the ones that Mike Malone was addressing, like the people, the big personalities who, they had like all of this shit to say about the Denver Nuggets are toast, and the Timberwolves are a better team, et cetera, et cetera. Look, man, I'm just saying this. We get very, very stuck in the moment sometimes. Scotty Barnes has a 2-week cold shooting streak. He doesn't work hard enough. You know what I mean? Guy gets injured, he's injury prone. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we need to get a little more forest from the trees sometimes with our basketball takes and also with life in general. Like, everything is not so doom and gloom. Sarah's young. We don't apologize to douchebags who need the NBA to save them. Sarah, I get a feeling you're from Minnesota. In which case, you've gone through enough. So, cool. Jeez. I hope Denver wins on Sunday so we can get another stupid Gil take on Monday. Facts. Yeah, man. All right. Good day, y'all. Good day indeed. I feel good. I feel great. I feel happy. The Denver Nuggets are great for basketball, man. I would love to see a Denver Nuggets versus Boston Celtics rematch in the finals. I also would love to see Denver Nuggets versus OKC Thunder or Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. We are in the golden age of great basketball. We have truly elite players across the league. You know, you have almost elite players on every single team. Donovan Mitchell is a superstar. You know, you're watching him go up against another superstar in Jason Tatum. Jokic is a superstar. You're watching him go up against Anthony Edwards. This is what we wanted, right? This is what we've wanted. We wanted a league full of stars. There are narratives. Everyone should be eating. Everyone should be happy. But there's no need to completely throw a star under the bus when he has a bad game. JC, would you be surprised if the Cavs take a 3-1 lead in the series? I would be beyond surprised. I would be flabbergasted. It's not happening. I don't think anything is impossible. That feels really hard because just as much as the Timberwolves have their issues with scoring, the Cavaliers also have their issues with scoring. I knew that Donovan Mitchell would get them one. And frankly, like you can pencil in one Celtics home loss where they just don't show up almost every single round. They just do this to themselves. But when you see the full force of what the Celtics are capable of, or what the Mavericks are capable of, or what the Denver Nuggets are capable of, like there really are. I mean, usually in the league, there are usually 3 contenders. This year, I believe there are 4 contenders. I believe Dallas is a contender, Minnesota is a contender, Denver is a contender, and Boston is a contender. So for a non-contender to knock out a contender will require something really crazy to happen. A fully healthy Knicks team was the only team in the East that I think could have given Boston real trouble. They're a really good team. They're a really good team. So no, I do not expect that. What's the money line on that? 35 times to bet responsibly. Probably. Would the success of Donovan Mitchell and Brunson change your opinion on the possibility of drafting an undersized guard that has elite offensive potential? No, not really. I do understand what you're saying though. And I just think that the exception is not the rule. Like in the case of Donovan Mitchell, for every Donovan Mitchell, there are 1,000 players of his size that do not make it. You cannot use the outlier. It's like using Nikola Jokic. Like, yeah, the average 6'11" below the rim athlete who doesn't move very well laterally fails in the NBA. The average. You don't start going and then trying to find those guys in the draft and being like, we're going to draft this guy because Nikola Jokic is great. Nikola Jokic is a 1 in a billion, 1 in 3 billion, 1 in 7 billion type of player. You know, Donovan Mitchell is very similar. Jalen Brunson is actually very similar as well. You're talking about the biggest outliers. You know who's not an outlier? Jason Tatum. That's who you should be trying to draft. Every single draft cycle, you should be trying to go with. I mean, and that's not to, and obviously that's not to say that you don't look at other archetypes. But the Jason Tatum archetype, the Giannis, let's say Giannis archetype, because Giannis is a very weird archetype. But like if you consider his archetype and how many different types of players you can make out of it, Brandon Miller is his archetype. Jabari Smith Jr. is his archetype. Very different types of players, right? Lengthy wings who can switch multiple positions are a great idea in the modern NBA. If nothing else, they retain incredible value as trade assets down the line. The Nuggets are obviously going full throttle into this. They're just, I mean, the Nuggets are actually have a really, really smart strategy. I mean, going Julian Strawther, Peyton Watson, and Christian Brown back to back years, with those 3 players, they really just need one of those guys to hit. And that's really how you should look at the draft. In my opinion, drafting is very, very, very similar to sports betting. I fully believe this. You have to go in with the expectation that you can lose. You absolutely have to draft 19th knowing that that guy can be a bust. You have to accept that reality. If you do not accept that reality, you will fail. So you have to accept that reality. But you have to maximize your odds, right? And how to maximize your odds, obviously, is, you get the best development staff in, but you also draft the most likely to succeed archetypes. All in on Stefan Castle. Why? I like him too, but I'm just curious. Why? What is it about him that makes you so confident? You know what I mean? So it's interesting. It's hard to get all in on anybody in this draft, to be completely frank with you. There are players where their separation is just a little bit higher, based on some perception of upside potential, etc. But yeah, like Zachary Risachet and Nikola Topic project as incredible role players, like incredible high level role players with star potential, right? You could say the same thing about Alex Sarr, incredible high leverage role player with a modicum of star potential, probably more Nick Claxton than Evan Mobley, but sure, right? Are you comfortable picking Nick Claxton first overall? I don't think so. But maybe a little bit more Miles Turner. Miles Turner meets Nick Claxton. Is that fair? Big Nick energy. I think Klingon is going to be pretty solid as a rim protecting drop coverage center. High floor, low ceiling center. Donovan Klingon could be a really, really serviceable player, or he could be an extremely injury prone big. His injury history scares me a little bit, just a little bit. I think there's enough concerns with injury history that I would be like uncomfortable drafting him top 5. JB, I've tried to bring you on a couple times, but your mic seems to be off.
Hey, Rob. Yeah, sorry.
Hey,
I left it off in a bit. Yeah, I gotta go probably in 8 minutes or so.
Sure.
So I didn't
problem.
know if now would be if you wanted to chat about
8 minutes is great, because that'll literally end this live at an hour 30, which is perfect. Okay, talk to me. What are you thinking about the draft?
Would you prefer to chat draft, or you prefer to chat free agency, or anything in particular? Because I'm pretty open for any of those topics.
You said you'd gone 20 hours into scouting, so I'm assuming you wanted to talk draft.
Sure, definitely can. So for the draft, I'm still on the fence whether we keep it or not. If we get a top 3 pick, like first, second, or third, I'd be more inclined to package it in a trade for someone that can help BBQ like next season. Because ideally, I'd like to be finishing top 5 in the East, preferably top 4, but definitely outside of the play-in. That would be, and I think if we can get that next piece, either a proper stretch big and or mobile rim protector, and or a point of attack defender in the wing. Those are the 2 key areas that we really need to shore up in our starting 5. Essentially a big upgrade from what's his name, Gary Trent offers. We just need a 2-way impact in that role, essentially replacing what OG took when he left and got us the other 2.
I'm not sure there's another OG in the league. Obviously, you can point to guys like Herb Jones and guys like
Trey
that.
Murph, possibly a Dyson Daniels if he gets a 3-point shot, but he'll be an undersized OG.
He's the same. He's around the same size as OG. I think Dyson's like 6'6", 6'7". OG is 6'7", 6'8". It's close.
But without
the
the
7'4", without the 7'3" wingspan.
Without the wingspan and without the lower body girth, like OG is.
Dyson's pretty solid. I've seen him in person several times. He's
Can he guard force?
Dyson can guard force. Oh yeah, Dyson will be able to
Dyson
guard.
is more slippery, but
Dyson in the modern NBA will be able to guard 1 through 4. I'm confident in that.
All right. So I'm not too excited. I mean, if we have the first pick, I'm actually a little bit scared to use that on someone, just because it's a massive overpay for what we could potentially grab at that, unless Alex Sarr really does reach his full potential, and or Risachet does.
So here's the thing,
I would
like
rather have the 6th pick.
I think
Yeah.
with Alex and with Zach, like the thing is that they have an archetype that feels like a first overall pick, right? Long shooters, you
Superstar
know,
potential.
or yeah, and I think like if either one of them actually had that, this draft wouldn't be considered so weak. That's always been my
Yeah.
take on this. If Alex
Yeah.
Sarr was Evan Mobley, this draft would be a good draft. If Zachary Risachet was like a Michael Porter plus or whatever the hell, you know, people think he is, or a bigger Mike Miller, like Mike Miller was the top 3 pick. That's like, wait, top 5 pick of all time, you know, in his draft. And he was a pretty weak draft. So a bigger Mike Miller is the comparison that NBA draft room has for Zachary Risachet. And I think that's like, or a Denny Avdia plus, like if that's really who he is, if he's really Denny Avdia plus, that's like, first of all, it's criminally underrating Denny Avdia. Denny Avdia is a solid player, but that's a really good player. A Denny Avdia plus offensive skill set, like that's an incredible player, and the Raptors should be all over that player for a first overall pick. If Zachary Risachet, and I think the only mock draft that I've ever done, I believe I definitely put Zachary Risachet number 1 on my draft, right? The reason that I had him so high is because of the fact that he fits that need. The issue is that because if you pick him first or second, you're paying them 12, 11, $10 million. That's $10 million that you don't get to pay a player who can help you win next year. Now, some fans are going to hear this and be like, does he think the Raptors are going to be good next year? No. That's irrelevant. It's not relevant whether I think they're going to be good next year. I do think they're going to be fine next year. The issue is that you're trying to save that pick the year after, right? You're like, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but like you're trying not to surrender. You're not trying to be in the same position next year with a much, much deeper draft, right? So if you keep the pick this year, you're giving it up next year. If you trade the pick next year, you're giving up next year anyways. You know what I mean? It's both. But at least if you trade it, especially for immediate, like a really good player who can actually help you win next year, you'll actually avoid the disaster that you're of repeating the same season you just had, and you might actually make the playoffs and surrender a 17th pick. So in a weird way, it's like it's correcting a mistake by getting out of a mistake. But if you draft a first overall pick this year, you actually become much more likely to be worse next year.
Yeah.
It seems counterintuitive because usually a first overall pick is supposed to help you get better, but this year's first overall pick will help you get worse. I almost guarantee it. Playing an Alex Sarr,
a lot of minutes.
Like let's say you draft Alex Sarr first overall, who's he going to play over? Is he going to play over Kelly Olynyk? He's a worse player than Kelly Olynyk. Is he going to play over Jakob Poeltl? He's a worse player than Jakob Poeltl. So he's going to play over guys because of development minutes that he is objectively significantly worse than, right? And he's going to earn $11 million that you could have handed to somebody who probably would have plugged his position better than him. Now, is it going to be worth it? Fine. But next year, you could be surrendering the 7th overall pick in a really, really strong draft, and at which point the 7th overall pick will probably be a better player than Alex Sarr. Yeah. That's the conundrum. Big Nick Energy saying Matas Buzelis could probably fit a need for you guys if he goes 4th or 5th. That's interesting. I like him a lot. So who did you like in the draft? And I guess like because we're edging very close to when you had to leave, I'll leave it to a final question. One, if they did draft, you said you wanted them to draft 4th or 6th, I guess. If they did draft in that range and they wanted to keep it, is there a player you really like in that range? And number 2, is there a player you really like in the 19 range based on what you've read?
So based on my research, there's only really 3 players I would strongly consider if we had the 4th or 6th pick. It would be, of course, Zach Risachet, Ron Holland, and Stephen Castle. Mostly because Stephen Castle is the one I'm most intrigued if we keep the 6th, because I don't think Ron or Zach would still be there. I doubt it. But for Stephen Castle, he plays like a really big guard, or like an average wing size. He loves contact, great finisher, very athletic and bouncy. He's a good point of attack defense. He's got that Lowry dog in him. And to me, he gives me shades of like a Jumbo Brunson, but much, much younger in his career. But like he's got the bag, he's got a sudden stop turnaround. He can spin, he finishes with both hands. He's got good floaters already, and he can develop into a very solid playmaker, although he doesn't have Scotty's vision. But I just feel like he's a really good connective, defensive-oriented, giant guard.
He's very, very, very far from Scotty Barnes as a playmaker. That much I will tell you.
But very few players are in that.
Yeah, but you're right. Like he could be a really big combo guard. And I mean, unlike a lot of combo guards that you might say that about, like Rob Dillingham or whatever, he actually has position, like he has positional side to play 2 and 3.
Yes,
I'll be very interested to see how
he'll be a very big 2, I think.
Right, and I mean, so Ron Holland, do you not feel like there's a lot of overlap with RJ Barrett in terms of skill set?
I do actually, and that's the thing. If we do draft Ron, I would be looking at seeing what we could get back for RJ, because RJ is definitely much more established. But if I'm hesitant to pick Ron Holland. It's just I like his defensive potential. He would be immediately an upgrade over RJ on the defensive side, whereas he's got that downhill like barrel to the rim finishing. He's a very good rim finisher.
Very hard to believe that a rookie would be better than a 5-year vet at defense ever. It's hard to believe. He's not Asar Thompson, you know what I mean? Like they're very rarely do rookies come in. Like I mean, fair enough. It's easy to say he's better than RJ because RJ has been so bad defensively. But just because he's better than RJ doesn't mean he's going to be an immediate contributor. And then you give up so much offensively.
That's
so it's
true.
like,
I would rather keep
at what
RJ.
point? Like at what point? Because you got to consider this. RJ was a top 3 pick in a pretty good draft. Not a great draft, but a pretty good draft. He was the number 1 player in the country in that draft.
He was ranked.
Zion emerged above him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, given that context, RJ Barrett versus Ron Holland as prospects was not even close. Like, not even remotely in the same discussion. RJ Barrett, the prospect, will go number 1 in this draft. This draft would be considered the RJ Barrett draft. It would be a really hyped thing. People will be talking about him as the next big thing. People will be comparing him right now to taller Anthony Edwards. I promise you, RJ Barrett, the prospect, was a much bigger deal than Ron Holland, which is where the logical fallacy comes in here, where we are willing to say, well, look, this guy that we know, we've seen him for 5 years in the NBA. He's not very good. But this guy that we don't know very much, who struggled at times in the G League last year, he is very good. See, this is the problem that I have, because Ron Holland currently is mocked as low as, I'm not kidding,
12, 14 maybe?
11.
Just
11
in
a terrible draft.
Yeah.
And he's going to be better than
he's going to be better than Ron Holland. I just think that defensively he would show a potentially point of attack, and he could develop that 3. But the other 2 was Reed Shepherd and Matas Buzelis. Reed Shepherd would be intriguing if we could trade quickly, because I don't see them being able to play together. It would be way too undersized in the backcourt. But again, you're betting on, I think Quickly could have a better career than Reed Shepherd as well. I don't want to stay on these 2 guys too much, because I'm more excited with what we could get at 19, actually. But if you have some quick points about Quickly and Reed being able to share backcourt together in the long term, what do you think about that?
I think I think of more skill sets than size. Reed guards pretty well. He's not a great defender.
He's an average defender.
He's a really intelligent and very disruptive defender. He is 6'3". Again, I'll be very curious to see how he measures out, because I suspect he's like probably
6'2".
closer to 6'2", and I think that might swing some people, because he's not like a bouncy super athlete. Like he's like, some people might actually feel that. And the same thing with Rob Dillingham, right? Like some people see him as 6'2", and I'm like, he might measure in at 6'1", 6 flat, you know? So the measurements are going to dictate a lot for me, right? But right now, a lot of people have Rob Dillingham as the better prospect, right? And I think I would have much more issues with Rob Dillingham and Emmanuel Quickly in the same backcourt than I do with Reed Shepherd and Emmanuel Quickly in the same backcourt. And that also being said, I do think that the roster is bigger than the starting 5. And honestly, you're not drafting a guy in this draft 5th or 6th overall, 4th or 6th overall to start for you next year. You have Grady Dick, who would easily be a better player than that player. You have money, which is going to be spent. So chances are this player's coming off your bench. So then it kind of negates the whole point, right? I am more concerned with how the player we draft 4th, 6th, 19th, etc. fits in with the overall team concept of what you're trying to do. It fits in with Scotty, because Scotty is the staple. Emmanuel quickly could go. I doubt he'll go, but he could go. Grady could
Barrett
go.
more likely to go too.
Yeah, like RJ could go. Everyone can go. Scotty will not go. So Reed Shepherd with Scotty is a pairing made in
That's
heaven.
a great pairing. That is a great pairing for sure.
Yeah,
which is why I was thinking possibly moving off of quickly in the future.
I don't think you can have both. That's what I'm saying. You can absolutely have both, and maybe you'll have certain teams where those two cannot play together, but then you'll also have teams that have to guard those two. And can you imagine the shooting on the court with Reed Shepherd and Emmanuel quickly? Yeah, good luck trying to guard that,
space.
right?
So much space.
Exactly. So yeah, it's not defensively like ideal, but the Denver Nuggets are getting away with Jamal Murray and Reggie Jackson in the same backcourt. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I understand Jamal Murray's 6'5", but he's a pylon defensively, right? The Indiana Pacers were scoring like 120 points per game with Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield. I promise you, neither Emmanuel Quickly nor Reed Shepherd are as sorry defensively as Tyrese Halliburton. 6'5", 6'2", 6'3", be damned, right? It's not like Tyrese Halliburton is stopping anybody right now. You know what I mean? So I'm not. And again, the Raptors played. I mean, granted, this is a very bad example because these guys were great defenders, but Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry, who were 6 foot each. 6'3" is a upgrade over 6 foot, right? So you get 6 more inches there. So, anyways, yeah, let's move on to
let's go to 19.
Yeah.
This one I'm much more excited with, but my worry is that us losing the 3 coin flips really potentially could hurt our chances of having these players still available. If we had the 16th pick, I'd feel 95% confident that at least 2 of these 3 would be available. But at 19, there's a chance that all 3 would be gone. So I remember you mentioning Yves Messi already. And I looked at his tape. He is definitely a Raptors fit, especially the Cameroonian connection. And his potential seems higher than the other 2 in terms of just how new he is to the game, how much untapped potential growth he could have to expand his game. And his stroke is good enough that he could develop a 3-point shot similar to how Koloko did. But there's 2 other players that I don't think was mentioned on your channel before, but it might have been. I haven't memorized every live. The first one is Daron Holmes, the second, who gives me shades of Miles Turner, as well as, and don't crucify me for this, but maybe a rookie Embiid, but smaller. And it's because of his ability to see over defenses, to find open teammates. He's able to make very good touch passes, surprisingly. He's got a consistent 3-point stroke. He seems very in control of his body. He moves very fluidly for a man his size. And considering how young he is, he already hit 240, 245 and pounds. So he's definitely a big body that's very mobile. And I think he could be a great pairing for Scotty and Emmanuel. And he might be available at 19. And the other player was Tyler Smith, which I have a lot of stuff about. He's ambidextrous. He's a lefty shooter, a very consistent stroke. He wants to mold his game to Michael Porter Jr. as well as a prime Chris Bosh. His intangibles are through the roof. He's very, very coachable, very high IQ. So I love his intangibles even more than his skill, but I think his skill is very well-rounded as a perimeter-oriented stretch big, potentially supersized wing. So any thoughts on these 2? I don't know if you've looked at them much.
Who was the second player you mentioned?
Tyler, I believe Tyler Smith, and Daron Holmes too are the 2 that I'm very curious in. And of course, Yves Messi would also be a fine pick. The other one was Furphy.
Tyler Smith from the G League Ignite?
Yes. Tyler Smith from G League Ignite. Yeah. I looked at some of his interviews as well. That's why I like his intangibles. He likes to study tape. He's trying to mold his offense. It's just G League Ignite didn't use him, used him in such a limited role. So he seems to be someone that will be slept on. So I think he might be available at 19, which I'd be excited to.
It's also interesting because he's a lefty.
Yeah. But he finishes with both hands and he can drive to the right, unlike RJ Barrett.
Yeah, here's a little bit of tape on him for anyone who's curious. Yeah, that's interesting. I think they're both really interesting players. So you're leaning towards a big with that 19th pick, regardless of which way we go. I'm inclined to say that I'm inclined to say that like with a draft like this, there will probably be some risers, like some late risers. I am, of course, though, always concerned with how we rank things. Like for instance, like you might say somebody is like a really good player at number 19, but I always try to historically try to perspectivize it and say, but where would they go in an average draft, right? And it's the same thing with, because then we don't get too caught up with the draft positioning, because the draft position can be really misleading, right? So this draft, I think the 19th pick will be a traditional 19th pick, if that makes sense, right? And I think that that's not true for the first or second or third overall picks, which will not be traditional first or second or third overall picks. And so because of that, I think that 19th pick is actually very good thing to get excited about. And I do believe that there is some real talent here, like some real NBA players. Like if you think, if you told me Tyler Smith is an NBA All-Star, I'd be surprised. But if you tell me he's like a 12-year NBA pro, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like as a prospect, how far is he from a Nick Claxton?
Not too far.
Exactly.
With better range. He's a way better spacer, and he finishes with both hands. So I think he already has more upside than Nick Claxton in terms of his potential and his impact on day one. Well, not day one, but maybe beginning of second year.
Yeah. And I think those interviews are going to be really important, and the Raptors do a fantastic job drafting anyways, and they do a good job drafting in this part of the draft. So yeah, these are great suggestions I think that you've had here. And I like your thinking for the top picks. I do, however, think that the backup guard might be a need for the Raptors, and I'm really a fan of Nikola Topic.
You think Nikola Topic would be available at 19?
No way.
Right?
I think he's he might be available in the top six. And especially if he doesn't interview well or he doesn't test well for whatever reason, I just love players who think the game the way he does at the speed that he does. I think we're seeing that with, ironically, Nikola Jokic. He's just seeing the game faster than everybody, right? And it's the same thing with Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes is a freaking mega athlete, right? But with guys like Jokic, Doncic, not to fine point it, like everyone from the Balkans can see the game at this elite level. It's not true, but guys who see this game at an elite level are able to make up for all sorts of physical things. Boris Diaw is a great example. He was a good athlete, but a little bit chunky. As he got a bigger. Steve Nash won MVPs, despite the fact that he was somewhat limited athletically and a little bit undersized. You could also make a case that who else? Kyle Anderson is another example. Slow-mo, can barely move, can barely dunk, whatever, but he is able to be successful. There are so many players who have overcome their so-called lack of burst, lack of size, lack of whatever. And that's why I look at guys like Reed Shepherd and Nikola Topic and I say, man, they're a hell of basketball players. Really, really good basketball players. So am I going to let, something like, okay, like with Topic, like I think the question will ultimately be defense, but then you can make the case that, okay, like he's big for his size. Maybe he'll figure it out. I don't know. He's not going to be like the greatest defender ever, but I think as a backup guard, you're not going to be matched up. Like, again, I think, sorry, I have to mute you because you have a delay echo. Yeah, I'm hearing vibration or something. Do you not have headphones?
Sorry, I just muted myself. Actually, I gotta go, but can I say one last thing, and then I'm gonna still follow your live through mobile. But if the Raptors do draft him at 6 or even 4th, I would not be worried because clearly the brass has done their due diligence in projecting what he could be, and they think that he is some. I trust in their drafting process. Like with Grady Dick, even though the first maybe 80% of his first rookie season was a disaster, but you could see flashes of why they drafted him and how he could be top 5 in his draft class, all said and done. So he has that potential, just all those intangibles and court vision and just being a high IQ player. So Topic, definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted him and or be disappointed. But I don't, based on what I see of his game right now, I am worried that he won't be a plus defender. That's my main concern. But I gotta go. It was a great chat with you, Rob, and I hope to chat with you again about free agency strategies or options that Raptors have other than just taking a free agent. There's actually a little bit of cap manipulation and targeting tax tax luxury teams and seeing if we can use our cap space to help their situation and get some what's that called? Some resources back from that. Okay. Have a great live and take care.
See ya. Okay, good caller. Yeah, I hope I didn't get demonetized for showing these clips, but yeah, a little bit of Tyler Smith there. Let's pull that off here. So let's just cap off this live. It's been a pretty interesting live. We've danced around a lot of topics. We started with Gilbert Arenas. We talked about the victory lap. We talked about the Denver Nuggets. We talked about the Indiana Pacers. Talked about playoffs in general. We talked about why North American players or North American people sometimes don't like Europeans. We talked about a lot of stuff. And now we've talked about the NBA draft. Let me just say this. The most elite skill that I look for in a young player is can you bend the defense? So it doesn't really matter how you do it. You do it through brute force like Shaquille O'Neal. You can do it through extended range like Trae Young or Steph Curry. You can do it through your elite court vision, and you can do it through post scoring. You can do it through your mid range pull ups. You can do it through a lot of ways. Are you a threat? Is basically my point. What do you do when you have the basketball? And that's really what I care about. I care about that. I care about that a lot. Nikola Jokic is like such a great passer. He's such an incredible playmaker, and he's such a relentless driver. The shooting is shaky, sure. For a team that is starved for defense and shooting, it's a very, very tough pill to go for a guy who does neither very well, right? So that's tough, right? But you talk rim pressure, you talk like putting a lot of pressure on bending the defense. This guy does it. You talk about pick and roll. Darko Rajakovic, wrote the freaking book on pick and roll. I don't think there's another guard in this draft who can do it nearly as well as him. Beyond that, Rob Dillingham, right? You want to talk about scoring guards and scoring guard archetypes. I tend to underrate these types of players, but you do have to look at him if you're the Toronto Raptors. You're a team that sometimes struggles to score in the half court. This is a guy who is a walking bucket in the half court. If he extends his range out, are you looking at Trae Young light? And is Trae Young light the best player probably in this draft class? Probably. Yeah, shit. You don't just pick an Alex Sarr because he measures well. You have to actually get into the nitty gritty of how he is going to succeed on the basketball court. And I'm not sure that shooting is ever going to turn into what you think it's going to turn into. All I'm saying is I am willing to bet a sizable amount of money. I would be willing to bet a sizable amount of money that Alex Sarr is not going to be the best player in this draft. Picking him first overall seems safe. It seems logical. It seems lazy to me. I think there's going to be 2, 3, 5, 7, 8 players better than him in this draft. Okay, that might be crazy. Maybe 5 players better than him in this draft. It doesn't really matter if they're better. Players don't become better or worse in a vacuum. Obviously, there's development that's going to go into it. There's situational stuff. There's always going to be like 1 or 2 players that would have made it, but they got injured. They're going to be like 1 or 2 players who could have made it, but they ended up in the wrong situation. And honestly, he has some incredible bust potential, in my opinion. It's not just because he's big. It's not because he's European. It's not because he's French. It's not because I haven't watched him play, etc. There is sizable bust potential with a player of his profile, in my opinion. There are times where I feel like he does not compete defensively to his capabilities. There are times where I'm left desiring more. There are times where I just see him miss easy box outs. There are times where I see him coasting. And again, I'll be very interested to see more of him in the next week. Once the Raptors secure this top 6 pick, if we keep it, I will be doing a ton of more research on Alex Sarr. And I promise you, is there going to be a live after the draft lottery? No, sir. There will be a live during the draft lottery. So we will do a draft lottery live reaction. I still have to figure out how to do that exactly. There is one way to do it, which is probably very smart, which is I go back to my old setup where I can have a TV in the background. The TV shows what's happening, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, when I renovated this office, I also took I also took my live and my desk and everything. So how do I do it? The other way to do it which is probably stupid, but I can do it this way, is I can situate my phone, it's gonna be so stupid, in the other room on like a tripod, and that phone can be a second caller, and that caller can be a second screen here, so we can react to it that way. Or we can find a legal stream. I don't know. There's definitely ways to do this, in which case we can react live. Not trying to get demonetized by, broadcasting something or whatever, but it's the draft lottery, it should be able to. So yeah, you have a laptop. My laptop broke. Yeah. That would be good if you can have a screen behind. Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen that way. So what we're probably going to do is exactly what I'm saying. Like we're probably going to have like the phone looking at the screen, and maybe I just don't have audio. So just keep the audio off, and that way we can just see it, and that way it won't be so like distracting. Do you know what I mean? We'll be able to see the screen, so we'll be able to see the picks as they come, but that way you'll hear my voice instead of, and you'll probably have it on as well, so we can all have it together, so we can react together. I think that's the best way to do it, and boom, problem solved, done it. So yes, I will do that. I'm not sure when the draft lottery is. When the hell is the draft lottery? I know it's Sunday, but when the hell is it? NBA draft lottery is 3 p.m. Took place Sunday, May 12th at 3 p.m. Okay. Cool. It's gonna be fun. Yeah. So 3 p.m. See you guys at well, see you tomorrow for the post games. Probably for another live as well. I actually wanted to do a 3-minute video about why the Raptors should not care too much about this draft, or care about whether or not to keep this pick or not, and maybe the downside of keeping it. But I think I've rehashed it pretty well. And at this point, I would just be making the video for the views, and maybe that's just not a great use of time right now. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. We've gone almost 2 hours, and it is 2:30 in the morning. Allegedly, on social media, they're saying you can see the northern lights in Canada right now, or in Toronto. You can see the northern lights. Can anyone verify if that's true? I'm gonna go walk my dog and see if yeah. Well, if you're with Bella Rogers as your TV provider and is broadcasted on TSN or Sportsnet, you can log in on their website and use the provider login account. That's cool. I don't know if I know my password, but that would probably be an infinitely better idea than what I'm talking about. I also need to figure out how to live stream my rebuild on the PS5, which I haven't done yet. I thought I was going to do that, and but we'll figure that out. Medved saying hit the like button. Yes, sir. Hit the like button. All right. Talk to you guys later, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And then for 3 p.m., we'll probably start at like 2 o'clock. We'll start at 2 o'clock on Sunday, just to give us the 1 hour to build up an audience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously we'll do the live reaction, and we'll do the post reaction. We'll do call in. We'll do all that stuff. All right. Talk to you guys later. Peace.